The early 20th century was a time of great change and upheaval in America. The Industrial Revolution was in full swing and cities were growing at an unprecedented rate. With this growth came new social problems, such as poverty, crime and violence. Many people believed that alcohol was at the root of these problems. The temperance movement, which had been gaining momentum for decades, argued that alcohol was a dangerous drug that destroyed families and communities. They believed that the only way to solve the nation's problems was to ban it completely. In 1919, their efforts culminated in the passage of the 18th Amendment to the Constitution, which prohibited the manufacture, sale and transportation of intoxicating liquors. This ushered in a period in American history known as Prohibition. The temperance movement had its roots in the Second Great Awakening, a religious revival that swept through America in the early 19th century. Preachers railed against the evils of alcohol, linking it to poverty, domestic violence and moral decay. The movement gained traction throughout the 19th century, attracting a diverse coalition of supporters, including women, religious leaders and social reformers. They saw prohibition as a way to improve public health, reduce crime and strengthen families. The Anti-Saloon League, founded in 1895, became a powerful political force, lobbying for the prohibition of alcohol at the local, state and national levels. Their efforts would ultimately pave the way for the passage of the 18th Amendment. The 18th Amendment, however, did not explicitly define intoxicating liquors or provide a mechanism for enforcement. This task fell to Congress, which passed the Volstead Act in 1919. The Volstead Act defined intoxicating liquors as any beverage containing more than 0.5% alcohol by volume, effectively banning beer and wine as well as stronger spirits. It also established the Prohibition Bureau within the Treasury Department to enforce the new law. The Volstead Act, however, was deeply unpopular with many Americans. Many saw it as an infringement on their personal liberty and a violation of their right to enjoy a drink. This widespread discontent would have significant consequences in the years to come. The Volstead Act and the 18th Amendment did not stop Americans from drinking. Instead, it drove the consumption of alcohol underground. Speakeasies, hidden bars where people could drink illegally, sprang up in cities and towns across the country. Speakeasies became central to the social scene of the Roaring Twenties, offering a place to escape the drudgery of everyday life and the restrictions of prohibition. They were often glamorous establishments, featuring live music, dancing, and a sense of excitement and danger. The rise of the speakeasy was a testament to the futility of prohibition. It demonstrated that people would find ways to circumvent the law when it conflicted with their personal desires. Section 5. Organized crime flourishes, a lucrative opportunity. Prohibition created a lucrative opportunity for organized crime. With the legal production and sale of alcohol outlawed, criminal gangs stepped in to fill the void. They smuggled liquor from Canada, Mexico and the Caribbean and set up illegal distilleries and breweries. These gangs, such as Al Capone's Chicago outfit and Bugs Moran's North Side gang, amassed enormous wealth and power through their bootlegging operations. They bribed law enforcement officials, intimidated witnesses, and engaged in violent turf wars to control the illicit alcohol trade. The rise of organized crime during Prohibition had a corrosive effect on American society. It undermined the rule of law, fueled violence, and corrupted law enforcement. Section 6. Violence erupts. The unintended consequences. The violence associated with Prohibition was not limited to gangland warfare. The black market for alcohol was inherently dangerous. as it was unregulated and often controlled by ruthless criminals. Shootings, bombings, and other violent crimes became increasingly common in many cities. The St. Valentine's Day Massacre in Chicago in 1929, in which 7 members of Bugs Moran's gang were gunned down by rivals believed to be associated with Al Capone, shocked the nation and became a symbol of the lawlessness of the Prohibition era. The escalating violence, coupled with the widespread corruption and the erosion of public respect for the law, led many to question the wisdom of Prohibition. Section 7. Public opinion turns. The tide begins to shift. As the Roaring Twenties gave way to the sobering reality of the Great Depression, public support for Prohibition continued to erode. Many Americans questioned the government's priorities, arguing that enforcing a ban on alcohol was a waste of resources during a time of economic hardship. Moreover, the social problems that Prohibition was intended to solve, poverty, crime and violence, persisted and in some cases worsened. It became increasingly clear that the noble experiment had failed to achieve its goals. By the early 1930s, the tide of public opinion had turned decisively against Prohibition. A growing number of Americans called for its repeal, recognizing that it had created more problems than it had solved. Section 8. The 21st Amendment, Prohibition repealed. In 1933, the 21st Amendment to the Constitution was ratified, repealing the 18th Amendment and bringing an end to Prohibition. The repeal was greeted with widespread celebration as Americans rejoiced at the return of legal alcohol. The end of Prohibition marked a victory for personal liberty and a rejection of government overreach. It also reflected a growing recognition that social problems, such as alcoholism, could not be solved simply by outlawing the substances involved. The repeal of Prohibition was a pivotal moment in American history, signaling a shift in public attitudes towards alcohol and the role of government in regulating personal behavior. Section 9. The Legacy of Prohibition, a Cautionary Tale. The legacy of Prohibition is complex and multifaceted. On the one hand, it serves as a cautionary tale about the unintended consequences of social engineering. The attempt to legislate morality proved to be a costly failure, leading to widespread lawlessness, violence, and corruption. On the other hand, Prohibition also had some positive, albeit unintended, consequences. It led to the development of new technologies for producing and distributing alcohol, as well as new forms of entertainment and social interaction, such as the speakeasy. More importantly, Prohibition left an indelible mark on American culture, shaping our attitudes towards alcohol, crime, and the role of government. Section 10. Conclusion: the enduring impact. The story of Prohibition is a reminder that human nature is complex and cannot be easily controlled. It also highlights the importance of individual liberty and the dangers of government overreach. While the noble experiment ultimately failed, it left an enduring legacy that continues to shape American society today. The lessons learned from Prohibition remain relevant in the 21st century as we grapple with contemporary debates about drug policy, personal freedom, and the role of government. By understanding the mistakes of the past, we can hope to avoid repeating them in the future.